Today we are going to continue working on dividing polynomials. So for our do now today, hopefully you've had the chance to look through it and you remembered some pieces, but we're going to walk through it just in case you didn't. And I've got those steps written out like we talked about in class. For step 1, we're just setting up the problem. Step 2, we actually solve the problem. And then step 3 is where we find the degree and we look to put our variables in. So for step 1 to start off with, to find my k value, I need to take whatever I'm dividing by and I have to flip the sign. So make sure that you do not forget to flip that sign, because if you do, your numbers are going to end up being very large or very small, and your problem is not going to work out correctly. So once I get that k value, I can go ahead and plug that in. So I have 3. And then I get my other numbers by taking coefficients. So I have a 1, positive 3, a negative 22, positive 5, positive 22, and positive 3. Make sure that you are taking the signs with it. So if it's a positive number, make sure you make it positive, and if it's negative, make sure you make it negative. Then once I have the numbers in my division, I can go ahead and drop the first number. You're always just going to take the first number down. And then the steps are as follows. If it's outside, you're going to multiply. So I'm going to do 3 times 1. And that's going to multiply to give me the number that goes inside. So 3 times 1 is 3. And then I add up those numbers on the inside. And 3 plus 3 is 6. Repeat again. Multiply that 3. 3 times 6, 18. Add them up. Negative 4. 3 times negative 4, negative 12. Add them up. Negative 7. 3 times negative 7, negative 21. Add them up. Multiply. And we get our answer. So that's the end of step 2. Multiply the numbers on the outside. Add the numbers on the inside. The next step is where I have to find my degree. So when I find the degree, in this case, that's going to be 5. And so I will subtract 1, and the degree of my answer is going to be 4. So this will be x to the 4th, x cubed, x squared, x to the 1st, my constant. So there's not going to be a number being added or subtracted. And then the last part is my remainder. And so I put my what I'm dividing by here. Now, I just realized that I used x instead of using p. I don't care what variable you use, but I'll write my final answer with p. So that would be x to the 4th plus 6x cubed minus 4x squared minus 7x plus 1 plus 6 over p minus 3. So on Monday, we went over the notes where we talked about those 3 steps we just talked about, and then we worked through problems just like what we did in the do now. And I told you there was one thing that I could give you to make it more challenging, but we weren't doing those problems on Monday, and we're going to start working on those problems today. And what makes it more challenging is that the exponents are missing something. So if I look, I go 5, 4, 1, and then my constant. So I'm missing some terms here. I have x to the 5th minus x to the 4th, but then what I'm missing is x cubed and x squared. So rather than just ignoring that, we have to make sure that we put that in. It must be in standard form, and you can't miss a single exponent when you are writing out your long division. So when I'm looking to put in those coefficients, I'm going to put in 1, negative 1, 0, 0, 8, and negative 3. I put those lines in just to help keep myself organized. And then I need to find my k value. So I take what I'm dividing by, that negative 1 becomes positive, and I put that outside. Then I go through and I do my solving. Step 1, bring down that first number, and then I multiply. So I'm going to do 1 times 1, and that's going to go right in here. Remember, if it's inside, we're always going to add, and then I add it up. 0, multiply 1 times 0, get 0. 0 plus 0 is 0. It's okay that you're getting all these zeros. Most of the time, you won't have something like this happen. But this can sometimes happen when we're missing a few of our coefficients. And 1 times 8 is 8, and negative 3 plus 8 is 5. So at this point then, I know that my degree is 5, so minus 1, I'm going to be using 4. So this will be x to the 4th, x cubed, x squared, x, my constant, and my remainder. You only need to write out the ones that have coefficients that are not 0. So this 0x cubed, 0x squared, and 0x, I do not need to write that as part of my final answer. My final answer will be x to the 4th plus 8 plus 5 over x minus 1. It looks weird, but we just don't need to put those 0 coefficients. If you wrote those as part of your final answer, I would not mark you wrong. But if I'm giving you multiple choice or an error analysis question, you are not going to see that as part of my work. So let's take a look at number 4. For number 4, I first need to check and see what, if any, exponents I'm missing. So I see it goes 4, and then I'm missing 3. So x to the 4th plus 0x cubed minus 9x squared minus 8x minus 24. Now it goes 4, 3, 2, 1, and nothing. I should see that every single time. You must go in decreasing order, just like standard form, but then you also must make sure that it's not missing anything. So now I can go ahead and draw my division. My k value is positive 3 in the problem, so I'm going to use negative 3. And my coefficients are 1, 0, negative 9, negative 8, and negative 24. We always take the first number and we bring it down. And then numbers that are on the inside, we add. Numbers that are on the outside, we multiply. So I'm going to have negative 3, because negative 3 times 1 is negative 3. Add that up. 0 plus negative 3 is negative 3. Multiply again. Negative 3 times negative 3 is 9, and I get 0. Negative 3 times 0 is 0. Add it up. Negative 8. Multiply, and I get 0. My degree is 4, so when I subtract 1, I'm going to be using x cubed, x squared, x to the 1st, my constant, and my remainder. In this case, I have 2 terms that I am not going to be using as part of my final answer. I will use my 1x cubed, my negative 3x squared, and my negative 8. The 0x term and the remainder do not need to be used because those have coefficients of 0. So my answer is going to be written as x cubed minus 3x squared minus 8. So let's work through some of those practice problems that we didn't do yesterday because we hadn't learned how to go through these steps. So first thing, I want to go through and I want to make sure that I have zeros in places where I am missing an exponent. So I go 5, I'm missing 4, so I'm going to put in 0, and then I have cubed, squared, to the 1st power, and my constant. So then I can go ahead and draw out my division box. My k value is negative 6 because I have to flip the sign. So I'll put negative 6 on the outside and then list my coefficients. So 1, 0, negative 28, 39, negative 50, and 24. All right, we always take the first number and we bring it down, and then I multiply what's on the outside and add up what's on the inside. Multiply negative 6 times 6 to get 36. Add it up, get 8. Negative 6 times 8, negative 48. Add it up, negative 9. Negative 6 times negative 9 is 54. Add it up, I get 4. Negative 6 times 4 is negative 24, which means my remainder is 0. My degree is 5 minus 1, so I'm going to use 4. X to the fourth, x cubed, x squared, x to the first, my constant, and my remainder. So my answer, n to the fourth minus 6n cubed plus 8n squared minus 9n plus 4. Just a reminder, if you are getting numbers as part of your final answer down here, and these numbers are smaller than negative 15 or bigger than positive 15, most likely you have made a mistake. Those numbers should stay between negative 15 and positive 15. It won't be that way all the time, forever and ever, but enough times in this practice, if you start getting big numbers, stop, go back. Make sure that you have not forgotten an exponent, like you haven't forgotten to put in a 0 placeholder. Make sure that you have kept all of your signs, that you haven't lost something, a negative, or made a positive into a negative. And then make sure that you did your adding and subtracting correctly. All right, last problem from our notes. So I'm going to take this problem and I need to see what I'm missing. So I'm going to have b to the fifth plus 0b to the fourth minus 63b minus 4b squared minus 33b plus 8. My k value here is 8, so I'm going to put 8 on the outside, and then my coefficients. 1, 0, negative 63, forgot that 3, negative 4, negative 33, and 8. Then I just follow my steps. Add on the inside, multiply on the outside, but always bring that first number down. 8 times 1 is 8. Add it up, I get 8. 8 times 8 is 64. Add it up, I get 1. 8 times 1 is 8. Add it up, I get 4. 8 times 4 is 32. Add it up, get negative 1. 8 times negative 1 is negative 8. Add it up, and I get 0. Then my degree is 5. I'm going to subtract 1 and get 4. So I'll have x to the fourth, x cubed, x squared, x, my constant, and my remainder. So my final answer, b to the fourth plus 8b cubed plus b squared plus 4b minus 1 with no remainder. Today for practice, you have a maze. You want to pay careful attention to the maze whether or not you are missing an exponent. So if you look at the first problem, you're not missing an exponent. So when you set up number 1, we will have positive 1 on the outside, and our exponents are 10, negative 2, and negative 4. Bring down the 10. 1 times 10 is 10. Add it up. Add those up, you get 8. 1 times 8 is 8. Add it up, you get 4. So your answer, the degree, 2 minus 1, so we just get 1. So x to the first, constant, and my remainder. So when I write out my answer, I'm going to have 10x plus 8 plus 4 over x minus 1. So the next problem that you'll go to is going to be this one here. Make sure that you are showing all your work. There is a separate paper for you to do your work on, and that last paper should be blank on the back so you could rip it off and then restaple it back on so that you don't have to keep flipping the papers back over. The next problem, I happen to be missing some exponents because it goes 3 to 1. So I need to remember to write in those missing exponents. So I go x cubed plus 0x squared plus 0x minus 15x plus 6. So when you set up your division, you're going to have 1, 0, 0, negative 15, and 6. And my k value here should be negative 4 because I have to remember to flip that sign. Then you go through and continue to solve it. So just be careful. Not all of them have things that are not missing an exponent, but there are some that are missing an exponent. You also need to make sure that it's in standard form. So if we zoom in and we look at problem D is not in standard form. So we want to make sure that we write it with those exponents. So x to the fourth. There's no 0 or x cubed term, so I'm going to put 0x cubed, then 5x squared, x to the first, and then the 8. So if you need to do that problem, just make sure that you put it into standard form. Your other papers are giving you room to do the work. When you finish, you should use up every single box that is on this page. So you'll end up doing 8 problems. And when you finish these problems, make sure you have them checked to make sure your work is correct, and then you are done for today.